Good morning. Thank you so much. It's so terrific to see a room full of students here this morning. I want to start by giving all of you, come on, a round of applause. Getting up so early. I promise you it will definitely be worth it, and I think next time I'm going to have to order even more food because you guys certainly do eat quite a bit, so that's great. We are thrilled this morning to have Mark Shearon, who's the founder and managing director of Proscenium, Inc. here in New York City. He's going to talk this morning about his work. Mark has spent the last 25 years thinking about clients, opportunities, and solutions, working with the world's best performing brands on their most important communications and marketing programs. Mark's specialty is the any-scale, success-critical, high-performance, face-to-face, digitally savvy event that drives businesses to perform. He has strategized with CEOs, created campaigns with brand managers, and collaborated with clients on the production of major product launches, which he will tell you about this morning. Mark has fielded 26,000 business partners in a single game, played the leading role in sports marketing activations for 150,000 plus consumers, and cut to the chase for live meetings of more than 17,000 employees. Prior to founding Proscenium, Mark worked on both sides of the pond with Imagination in London, and for 4 years he led the Eastern Region and Engagement Communications practice for TVA Global in New York City. Mark and his wife Shearon and their two sons Zach and Max, all of whom are here today with us in the front row, thank you and welcome, have been part of the Concordia family for many years. Mark and Shearon served together on the Concordia Conservatory Advisory Board for 3 years, and Mark currently serves as on the Concordia's Capital Campaign Steering Committee. Zach and Max both have taken guitar and voice lessons and are regular performers in the Conservatory's holiday musical. According to Proscenium's website, if Mark played cricket, he'd be known as an all-rounder. If he were in
Which means a lot to you, right? Cricket.
If he were in Hollywood, he'd be known as a triple threat. And if he were a knife, well, only the Swiss Army type would do. So please join me in welcoming the multitasking, media-savvy, marketing genius, Mark Shearon. Thank you.
Wow. All right. So follow that, right? I didn't write any of that stuff, by the way. I have a writer that, yeah, there you go. So thank you so much for coming. This is great to see some of you here so early. I personally prefer business brunches, not business breakfast. It's a little early for me, I have to say. So thank you all for coming. So just by show of hands, who here has some idea of what experiential marketing might mean? I do. No? So really a term that not a lot of you have heard of. Brad, you put your hand up. Can you give me an example of something that you've either been to or you've read about an experiential marketing campaign?
Yeah, like Take Money 20 Las Vegas, 40,000 people a couple weeks ago. You have a DJ that's putting on the sound and music and creating a brand presence from start to finish, and you walk in through out the door the entire day. And so you have people that are coming up speaking, you have audio visuals, different branding constantly behind it. You're trying to lead your message besides the communication.
Sure. So experiential marketing is all around us. Samsung launching a new TV in Times Square, that's experiential marketing. The Olympics, I mean, it's a sporting event, but people, the sponsors there pay tens of millions of dollars to have a presence at those events. A concert. A concert is absolutely now an experiential marketing event. Those artists can no longer earn money through selling their music through iTunes or Spotify. They have to make money by touring, and they make a lot of money by all of the merchandise that they sell. So that's where the money is now, which is great for all of us because we get to see these artists. Before, they just used to release records, get rich, and occasionally come out and perform. Now they have to perform. That's why there's so much music around. So experiential marketing is all around us. So let me tell you a little, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about Proscenium, the history of Proscenium, where that all comes from. Then we'll go through a little bit of theory, and then I'll take you through some case studies of different programs that we've done for different brands. So simply, we create and produce live events for some of the world's biggest brands. We started the company just over 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. I've been in this business for probably close to 20 years now. But we started this particular business 6 years ago. And I'll tell you a little bit about the culture of that in a second. And we started with 0 clients. We didn't have any clients. We had 6 people. We're now up to 21 people, and I'll take you through some of the clients that we've built, in the last 6 years, and a little bit about how we've done that. So this is the Walmart shareholders meeting. This event happens every year, the first Friday in June, every single year, in Northwest Arkansas, in Fayetteville, at the University of Arkansas. It's in the basketball arena there, 17,500 people. It's a week-long series of events. They do a concert, like a Jason Aldean type concert on the Tuesday night. They might have the Eagles on a Wednesday night. Then on the Thursday, we'll do a 7,000 person employee meeting for their US delegates, and then we'll do a 3,000 person meeting exactly the same time in another arena for their international delegates. They bring people in from the 29 countries that they actually operate. And then on the Friday, they actually do a shareholders meeting. Now, most companies, and there's some guys in the room here that would know this, most companies want to have as least amount of people come to their shareholder meetings as possible. They hold them in Toronto, they hold them in sort of little conference rooms, they publicize them because they have to, and like 5 people show up, normally for the breakfast, like you guys have. And they really don't want questions and that sort of thing. Walmart is exactly the opposite. 17,000 people show up for this meeting on a Friday. It starts at 7 in the morning and then goes on until 11. So let's have a look at an example of that from 2014 that we produced. Proscenium produced everything you're about to see we produced, from the artists to the speeches to the visuals to the stage set. We actually created and then executed.
Welcome to Walmart's 2014 annual shareholders meeting.
So Pharrell opened the show with Happy. Harry Connick Jr. was our MC. And you'll go directly from a CFO's proposal to Florida Georgia Line doing 2 songs. That's Sarah McLachlan, for anybody that doesn't know her. So the Walmart shareholders meeting is probably one of the largest events in the industry. It's certainly one of the largest budget events that is sort of around there. There's probably another 5 that are that sort of size. Home Depot does one that's as large as that. Oracle do one that's as large as that. Airbnb actually do one of the largest events in the world. Using all of their Airbnb connections. They do it very differently. So you can see here the set. This is Doug McMillan, the CEO. So we work, literally side by side with the most senior people within these organizations. This is their chance to actually, impart their message either to their employees, their business partners, the media. And so we work really closely to sort of come up with all of these graphics. Walmart obviously have incredible connections. So we came up with this. He said, Doug McMillan said, I want something to show our employees. I want something to sort of, show off how great our employees are. I see them like as superheroes every day, helping customers in our stores. And we said, well, it'd be great if you could do sort of cartoons of some of your employees, like Marvel cartoons. He's like, yeah, great idea. And we literally sat in his office. He calls up the Marvel CEO while we're there. He's like, would you draw some cartoons if we're, and the guy's like, yeah, sure. Well, so they literally, you know, those connections, they literally, Marvel artists then drew cartoons, and these guys all changed into, you know, I haven't got the sequence, but they all changed into, you know, Walmart employees during his speech. It's not often you're able to sort of, you know, call on those connections and stuff, but Doug Macmillan obviously can. So a little bit, this is like the theory bit. We'll get into some more case studies. So I think like 4 people had even heard of experiential marketing. Well, it's big. It's got definitely a lot of spend. About $150 billion is spent on experiential marketing, and that is growing. As people, as brands are finding it difficult to connect on TV, you know, TV advertising isn't working, radio advertising isn't working, they actually need people to come to live events to actually experience the brands. How do they differentiate themselves? So live event marketing is actually a growing industry and becoming, you know, really super important. And the industry employs, you know, a lot of people. And we'd sort of break it down into B2B, so business to business would be one of our audiences. So they may be business partners. You could class the Walmart event as a business to business event because they're talking, you know, to the media and to the world. It's also an employee event, B to E, so business to employees. We do a lot of those. And also B2C, so the Olympics would be an equivalent, an event that would be a consumer event, or the launch of the iPhone is a consumer event. So Proscenium, we have a very distinct culture. This I don't normally share externally, and I'm not going to go through it. There's a lot here. But we really talk about a culture of commitment. So it's a culture of commitment to each other, my colleagues and the people that work with me. We're very committed to each other. We look after each other. We look after each other's backs. But really, it's about being committed to our clients, and then getting to the message that we need to impart for them to get commitment from somebody to either buy a product, to share a vision, to share a plan, and actually then go out and do something. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about commitment. We're an ethical enterprise. We're fully employee-owned, so everybody that works with me has actually equity in the business. They actually share in the business, so we all own the business. What other things? Yeah, we really sort of endeavor to commit to do our best work of our career. So that doesn't matter if you're a year out of college, you know, you're still doing the best work that you possibly could at that stage, or, you know, you're like an old guy like me and you've sort of done lots of things, but I'm still endeavoring all the time to do the best work I've ever done. I never sort of stop that commitment to continuously sort of improve. Everything should be at the benefit of our client, and our sort of tagline, if you like, is we help brands perform. And that really comes from a lot of our history, which is a lot of the people that work at Proscenium are from theatre, so from Broadway, and sort of found this industry almost by accident, really. And then now we take all of those skills and put that into performing, you know, creating events that help brands perform. So a little bit more on commitment. So you'll hear a lot about, you know, brands want to get people engaged, and engaged is good, but we actually believe that we should be taking people to commitment. So if you think about almost anything, but particularly if you think about a brand or a new product or a service, you've got to take people from awareness, understanding what that brand might do, supporting that idea that, you know, the new iPhone 10 is, you know, I should spend $1,400 on it. Why should I do that? I'll do that. Getting engaged is one thing, and then committed is a whole different level. So most people stop at engagement, and brands are happy with that. You know, people are engaged with us. We say, no, you have to take them to the next level. You have to get people to be fully committed, you know, to your brand and to your service or to your product. And then you can amortize that into profit and money. So these are some of the people that we work for or have worked for in the last 5 years. Walmart you've seen. I'm going to take you through some of the others. And we're very, very proud of this list. You know, these are major brands, which I think probably you've heard of all of them. And, you know, we're 20 people in a little office in New York City. we compete with the big boys. I compete day after day with $2 billion companies who work in my area. And we manage to actually compete because we're a little different. And a lot of that comes from our commitment, brand house, and the way that we operate. And it allows us to do, things like this. It's all right. Hold on, let's go back. Oh, maybe it just goes. No, it stays. So, different things. I'm going to take you through some of these. T-Mobile, we have a team in Hawaii right now working on a T-Mobile event. Later this morning, we'll have a team at Daiichi Sankyo, which is a pharmaceutical company in New Jersey. They're bidding on a new drug launch for them, so they're bidding on that. So we tend to have teams, working all over the world and all over the country. Oh, for some reason we're moving on. All right. So, I'm not going to take you through this. There is a process. It's a very detailed process to get to the messaging that needs to be sort of imparted at the events. A lot of onboarding and kickoff. We have to fully understand a brand to really help them to come up with an event that is right for them. We then go into an extended pre-production and planning phase, and then we actually go on site and execute the events. And then afterwards, we'll do post-event debriefs, and then we start the process again often. We have a 100% retention rate for our clients. So we haven't lost a client in our 5 years of existence. Clients come back to us year after year, event after event. So right now, we have 100%. That won't continue. I mean, people do make changes, things happen. But 5 years is like really unheard of in our industry. Often it's, a one-off event and then you have to bid again, which is a very, very expensive process to bid on the sort of things that we're bidding. And I'll show you some of the examples of that. And this is just an example of, KPMG and us sort of trying to get to what a brand actually means. So, KPMG they call it the KPMG story. It's about their purpose and their mission and their values and their vision. It's deep on their website. If you click about 10 times, you'll finally get to this stuff. And then they have a go-to-market framework, which is the KPMG way. Then they have all these initiatives. So these are all the areas that they want to grow in. So whether it be cybersecurity or strategy or data and analytics, most people know of KPMG as an audit company, but they're much more than that now. They also have actual spaces, so they understand experiential. KPMG, you've probably never heard of them, but KPMG literally have physical spaces that they've built out that talk to innovation, that they take their customers in. There's one here, there's one in Dallas, I think there's one in Geneva or somewhere like that. So they've actually built out physical spaces to show how innovative KPMG is. And then if we were to do a conference for them, we would have to think about all these things, and then how does that filter into this one particular event that we're actually tasked with providing, and how does each speech at some point come back to at least one of these messages or all of these messages. And then we think about every single touch point for an audience member. So, before they even come, how do we notify them? Is it through email, direct mail? When they're actually on the online registration, what sort of feeling do they get from the graphics, from the copy that's on there? All the way through to actually arriving at the airport. Is there signage at the airport? Are there signage on the buses? Are there videos playing on the buses? All the way through to actually the events themselves. And then afterwards, how do you follow up? How do you follow up via email, online, digital messages, all the way through to getting set and getting people to re-sign, for the next meeting, which will be coming up later that year or even, maybe next year. So we really think about all of those things. The audience, what they're thinking about, what the executives, what the message they want to get across, and then all of these different touch points. And we design different mechanisms to help those executives get across their messages across all of these touch points. So let's get into some case studies. So this is Harley-Davidson's launch of their brand new engine last year in Boston. So they invite 5,500 dealers from 94 countries around the world. They all come into a US city every single year in August, and they launch their new motorcycles. But this year, they were actually launching a new engine. So this is only their 9th engine in their 114-year history. It costed a lot of money to design an engine for a motorcycle. And so this is only their 9th. It's called the Milwaukee 8. It's called the Milwaukee 8 because it has 8 valves. I ride, so I love all this stuff. So we came up with this idea, and you'll see it. We've got a little video in a second. You'll see that we came up with this idea that it was really about design. And so we had designers on stage during walk-in. So when people were just like, as you were earlier on today, coming into the room, we literally had Harley-Davidson designers working, drawing engines. We could see them drawing on the screens and stuff. One of the interesting things about this is we ride. So we actually do ride motorcycles through the audience. We ride them on stage. So this is why we need the ramps and everything, and you'll see that. But on this one, this is the Boston Convention Center. So what you can't really see is this is a window. This massive thing here is a window that's actually open to the outside. And then there's windows on the side. So we wanted to create a very sort of dark environment. So we covered those windows with film. It took 3 days to cover every window. And then we projected on this. So we use this as a projection screen. This is over 200 feet wide, it's 60 feet deep, and then we had 3 more screens here and then a stage. And you'll see in the video, we actually hid the engines underneath the stage, and then they came up at the right moment on elevators when it was right for them to be revealed. So I'll play you a quick video.
Good morning and welcome, Harley-Davidson dealers.
So, a really cool brand, obviously, to be involved with. We are already starting to meet on the next event. We just launched their bikes in LA at the Microsoft Theater. We launched 13 new motorcycles for them back in August, because that was last year. So a great brand to be working with, and something, that we're sort of really, really proud of. And that show was all about, talking about messaging. It was all about getting, and it seems like so rudimentary, but they really wanted the dealers to understand that they had to get people to ride the new bike with the new engine. So they had to do test rides. So it was all about riding every day. And after the event in the last quarter, they had a 95% increase in test rides, which actually resulted in them selling another 1% of motorcycles. And 1% doesn't sound very much, but if you're already the leader in motorcycles in the world, they own over 53% of the market of motorcycles in the world, Harley-Davidson. So if you're already at 53%, to get a 1% increase in 1 quarter is like huge. It's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. Yahoo, we did a new front, sometimes called upfronts. So it's when all of the networks, online networks, but also broadcast networks, actually invite all of the people who advertise on their networks to see what's coming up for the coming year. So this is at the Lincoln Center. We created, and you'll see it, we created a set here. So it was pretty simple. We didn't have a lot of budget, actually. So we created simple square IMAX screens. And then here, this is one big piece. It's like 30 feet high. But it's actually on a turntable. So the whole thing sort of turns. And you'll see it. We opened with Steve Aoki. And we had, you'll see some of the various celebrities that came to sort of promote their shows and stuff. Is that enough? So yeah, so you can see how the feeling of that event was very different to the Harley Davidson event, hopefully. And, you know, we don't really have a house style. So our style is about each and every brand. And as I said, we think really carefully about how we should represent each brand. So let's keep going. Oh yeah, so Boeing. So this was, I don't know if anybody's been on a Dreamliner. I haven't actually, I've never been. I fly all the time, but I've never been on a 787 Dreamliner. Sharon's been on a Dreamliner. And they're a beautiful plane, but we launched it. So we launched, this was the first plane to be built on the East Coast. Boeing always build their planes just outside Seattle. But they built a assembly plant. They fly in all the bits, and then they actually assemble them in South Carolina. So this was the first plane to ever be built, and the client said, you know, we want to keep the plane hidden to the last minute, and then we want to reveal it to 10,000 people. Okay, well, it's only 240 feet wide by 250 feet long, so, I mean, sort of easy to keep something hidden, right? And how long does it take for the hangar doors to open? Well, it takes 8 minutes for the hangar doors to open. Oh, okay, so we can't use the hangar doors. So we came up with something called a kabuki drop, which is an old theatrical trick, but it was 260 feet wide. And a kabuki drop, you'll see it in the video, is where you basically have little explosives on drape across the top of a truss. And then those explosives, at the right moment, disengage the drape, and the drape will drop, and then you have something called a snifter, which is a massive pulley which just pulls that drape and takes it away. And so it seems like it's, you know, sort of magic. You'll see in the video as well that one of the drapes, if you look very closely, one of the drapes does not drop. And so one of our crew actually ran at the drape. You can't see him, but got on the back of the drape, pulled it down, and then ran off with it because there was one drape. But you'll see it in the video. It's just one drape, so look out for that.
To the world, the finest new team, and that's the 6,000 teammates that are here with us today. Please give them a huge round of applause.
I'm proud of this team. You guys, you do it well. You did it great. Be very, very proud of what you've done.
When I look at this 787 Dreamliner, I see the power of the human spirit and camaraderie amongst co-workers.
We are telling the entire world that we build things in South Carolina. We build cars, we build tires, and now we build dreams. Big Mac Daddy 787 dreams.
Today we say we build jets. Let's hear it. We build jets. We build jets. We build jets. Thank you, production company. Excellent, excellent. Chuck, Jim, excellent job.
So on a working airfield in South Carolina, we actually managed to do daytime fireworks there. And every piece of that event was sort of carefully crafted. I mean, it seems amazing to me, but like some of the best simple ideas. So they'd never come up with the idea of building dreams. even though they build Dreamliners. So we came up with this idea that the theme of the event should be building dreams. And that is so much more than just building the plane, right? Because they fought the rest of the states to actually get the privilege to build those and get, the labor and the unions to actually allow them to build those things. So it's about building dreams for the people that actually work at the Boeing plant, 10,000 people that actually work at the plant. So it's so much more. And then it's also about the actual consumer that then will fly on that plane, about, dreaming of going to far off places. So, these themes might seem like just words, but sometimes they actually, that one was an excellent one. Credit Karma, this is more of I've got like 2 or 3 more of these. Credit Karma was a consumer event. Does everybody know Credit Karma? You're their target, so hopefully you should. Credit Karma, you can get your score for free, right? So you guys all know this. And they wanted to go out, so we were on the West Coast, so we built them this little sort of experiential booth, which toured, it did Pride, it did a couple of different Latin music events and that sort of stuff last year. But again, we wanted to make it different. There's a social media piece to it, but we made it into a little ride. We found this sort of fairground ride that 2 guys had invented, and it's like sort of a mix between whack-a-mole and that elevator thing that goes up and down. I can't remember what it is, but anyway. You have 2 people sort of whacking away at this sort of button, and then you can actually take people up, and either kids or adults can go up and sort of, it's your credit score. But it's pretty cool. So you get it, right? So usually successful. It's sort of hard to talk to people on a beach about their credit scores, and hey, do you want to sort of, they don't tend to have much with them. But it really did work. There were a lot of sign-ups and then a lot of follow-up, after that. A really great fun. So this is an example of something we didn't do. So this was a bid. So we bid on a lot of stuff. It can be a competitive bid for 5 or even 10 or even sometimes 20 different companies bidding on doing an event. So this is a massive event that Cisco Live do every year. I just really wanted to show you, some of the things that we have to do to even sort of, win the work. So I constantly am thinking and sort of trying to do things. As I said, I'm always trying to do things bigger or better or more or whatever, and trying to sort of do things that I haven't done before. So really what this is about is like really using the power of automation. Again, if any of you go to sort of concerts, you'll see more and more. And we really take a lot of the stuff that bands are doing now, so things that U2 are doing or the Red Hot Chili Peppers are doing now, will become cheap enough for us to use in like 2 or 3 years. So did anybody go to the Red Hot Chili Peppers thing where all the lights sort of go up and down, or seen that online? Has anybody seen that, the spheres in the air? So that's already being used now in ours. That was like a year ago, that's already being used. So automation, and what I mean by automation is moving screens and creating different environments, is becoming something that now is affordable to the corporate market within my industry, and I'll try and explain what that means. So you can see here, you'd walk into this, imagine you walk into this, and this is what the screen looks like. Pretty cool, it's LED, it's pretty cool. But I'll show you a video that actually shows how you can completely change the environment during an actual presentation, and definitely for sort of the next day. So imagine coming into this room and it being set up completely differently when you come in, after lunch or you come in tomorrow. So you walk into that, but then screens come in from behind you, above your head, and start to form different shapes. So that's automation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Chief Executive Officer Chuck Robbins.
So we wanted Chuck to have his own unique look, so we could actually create that for him. And then on day 2, you could walk in and the screens could be set up in a completely different environment. This was National Geographic. This is for demos, so we could actually bring out demos onto stage and then get rid of them. Oh, and Kevin Spacey, we'll get rid of him. Yeah, it's amazing how things change, isn't it? So, one final one. So Heineken. So again, something that I've been wanting to do is to create a really immersive environment. So where video is below you, even above you, all around you. And so we got a chance this year. We've worked with Heineken for the last couple of years. They invite all of their beer distributors, so all the guys who sell beer around the US. They invite them to sort of come and they tell them their new marketing and they tell them new products and what they're going to do with advertising, that sort of stuff, and try and get them to put Heineken products. Heineken have over 140 brands. Everybody knows it for the green bottle, but they have another 140 beer brands. To try and put those brands, on the trucks and take them to Walmart or take them to the convenience stores. So we normally do it in a theater. So we've done it in San Diego in a theater. And so the setup is very much, within a proscenium theater. So does everybody know what a proscenium is? Proscenium is the arch through which you watch a performance. So one of the best examples of that is Radio City Music Hall, which has a number of prosceniums. But a proscenium theater is like a classic theater. And we've done the events there. They wanted to do this event at the Dallas Convention Center. It was just a massive hall, just a massive convention hall. So we actually created a 300-foot by 300-foot room with drape within that room. And so that's what you're seeing here. There's black drape all around us. We've created a room. We bring them in this way. And if you can imagine that this screen, is literally the screen behind me. But on these walls, there are massive screens, 80-foot by 20-foot screens there, an 80-foot by 20-foot screen there. And then actually on the floor is an LED screen as well. So you've got an LED screen here, you've got an LED screen behind me, and then screens, either side. So a little bit hard to sort of imagine, but I think this video that I'm about to show you will sort of get it across. Oh, that video won't. But let's try one more time. So that was a dream come true for me. That was something that I've been thinking about probably for like 5 or 6 years, about trying to create that really immersive environment. The only screen I didn't get was one, above our heads, but that, I finally had to give up on that. Just the engineering of that would have been too much. But it was really great to sort of, and it's great to have clients who really, sort of will listen to nonsense like that. You can imagine sort of like when I first went in to pitch that, they're like, what? You want to do what? You want to have an 80-foot stage by 40 foot, and you want our executives to walk on that stage? How can you do that? And and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. So yeah. So those are the sort of things that we do, and some of the work that we do. So what's the format? Questions? Is that Mr. Joyce? Yeah. So I'll answer whatever I legally can.
How do you get the executives to train, to perform on that? Because maybe they are performers, but
No, they're not. I mean, it's actually a really good point that, these guys are, and again, I feel very privileged and very honored. We do actually work with, all the leaders of these organizations. I get to meet, some great minds, the CEOs of all these organizations, because we're working with them on the messaging and the, they really do share with us. I mean, I have NDAs, non-disclosure agreements with all of our clients. I know what Heineken is doing next year. I already know what Harley are doing. So they're concentrating on that, right? On the business and the Wall Street and all those things that CEOs have to, and CMOs have to work with. And it's our job really to sort of help them with that. So we have a lot of people that have been directors on Broadway, and they literally, we did many rehearsals with the executives and sort of showed them, so you start to speak, you make your point there, you move, you plant yourself, and that's like the punctuation of your speech. And literally we do sort of try and, teach them stagecraft and stage technique to sort of help them through that. Now, you have different people with different skill levels, some people are exceptional. Some people find it very difficult. And I think that really depends where they are also in their sort of experience. But some people who've been doing this for a long time just find public speaking really, really difficult. But we help them through all of that, and that's part of one of the services that we sort of offer.
So do you have an arsenal of vendors that help you? You call up and you say, Joe, I need 300,000 yards of drape, and
Yep.
to implement all that, because it would seem like you really only have a year between finishing the one and going to the next one.
Sure.
Because you have these steady clients.
Sure. Yeah, no, exactly, sort of exactly that. It's interesting. We own nothing. So Proscenium owns, we have some chairs and some desks, and I think we have a few pens and stuff like that. But, we have computers. But we don't own anything that you've seen there. We don't own, and that's on purpose because this stuff is changing all the time. The LED, which is light emitting diodes, which are the screens. I remember 6 years ago, people were like, oh, the Walmart event, we're going to be able to use 7mm LED, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's amazing. We're down to 1.8 millimeter now. So that means that, the gap between the LED is 1.8 millimeters. So the definition is so much better. So, that 10 mil 10 years ago was probably, you had to buy it. It was like $30 million. So we don't want to be into that. There are companies who, that's their business, and they're trying to figure all of that out. So literally, yeah, and it's so funny you picked the name Joe. We have Joe in Dallas, who we would get our drape from. He owns a company called Communilux, and we literally ring up Joe. We literally rang up Joe for that Heineken event and said, hey Joe, we need 500 foot of black by 60, 60 foot high drape. He's like, sure, yeah, when do you need it? And yeah, so literally we do. And we tend to work, we're, again, a little different. We definitely tend to use the same people time after time. We don't really bid that out. Occasionally we do, but we just have such great relationships with the people that we work with that we tend to, continue to use the same people.
What, as far as people looking to get into this industry, experiential marketing, what transferable skill sets do you think would make people successful in getting this? Or what would you look to hire?
Sure, it's sort of interesting. I mean, I'll sort of answer that so I am not a theater guy, so I'll quickly tell you how I got on this. And it does tend to come from 2 or 3 different places. But I was a hospitality guy, so I actually went to culinary school. I trained to be a chef originally. And then I decided that being a chef was really a lot of hard work, and it was hot, and I didn't really like that. So I thought I'd get into management, because management must be easier, right, than being in the kitchen and stuff. So I did that. I went to college and university and got something, sort of equivalent to a Bachelor of Science degree in hotel management. And then I joined. I'll fast forward a bit, but I then ended up being the sort of area manager for a high-end caterer that did a lot of things for the banks in the City of London. The City of London is like a square mile. It's not the whole city. It's where all the big banks are. And they have amazing catering facilities for all of their employees, but all of their sort of entertaining and that sort of stuff. So I managed 25 or 26 of those. And one of my clients was a company called Imagination. Imagination are sort of similar to Proscenium. They do these big corporate marketing events. And at one point, I got to know all the people that work there because we used to do all of their catering and stuff. And they got a massive contract. They actually won the Millennium Celebration. So this is in the early 90s. They won the Millennium Celebrations, the right to do the Millennium Celebrations for the UK. So a massive event, massive event, $60 million. And so and they basically said, we're going to need people. You have the skills. And the skills really are that you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to take what a client is trying to do and then come up with, a design, a way to actually, impart that information to their intended audience at the end of it. So it can come from sales. We now employ really smart people. So we just look really for smart people who have the right attitude. And that really is the ability to listen somebody once told me you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should use them in that proportion. And it's really something that has stuck with me. I mean, I've done a lot of the other way around today. But it really is, it is really important. Listen to what people, and sometimes listen to what they're not saying, which sounds crazy, but, try and listen to maybe what they're not saying, but really listen intently. And then you can actually come up with things that really are sort of meaningful for people. And because, you're going to give them what they want. A lot of people talk. I tell a lot of my people, stop talking. Let them talk.
When you make a deal with a client, are they exclusive? In other words, you cannot have another beer?
We cannot, no. Yeah. Now, well, in some cases we cannot. So Harley Davidson, we have a very tight, they won't let us work with any other motorcycle manufacturers. Heineken, we actually haven't signed that, but I wouldn't go and work with Constellation I don't think that's right. So I personally wouldn't. Walmart, you couldn't work with Target. If you work with Coca-Cola, you can't work with Pepsi. I mean, they hate each other, So.
One more question?
Sure. Well, this young lady kept putting her hand up.
How do you sell your company to the bigger brands, even though there's bigger companies competing with you?
We have a process. So I have a sales and marketing guy, and what we do is we have a massive list, about 8,000 people that we know are involved in this industry. We send out really annoying emails. Then we try and so we actually have an actor who lives in California. I've worked with him for 6 years. I've never met him. And he calls up a list of clients for us, and he acts like a sales guy. So he actually isn't a sales guy. He's just an actor, acting like a sales guy. And he says he works for us, and he just has a script, and he gets his WebExes. And we do a WebEx, And then ideally we get onto what is called an RFP, a request for proposal. So they then send us a proposal. And then we do like these crazy sort of proposals and stuff, which can cost a lot of money. You know, we can spend $25,000 to $30,000 on a proposal. And then, you know, sometimes we win. And then other times we're really lucky. So I'll tell you how we got Heineken, and then I know we want to wrap up, right? I'm getting the eye. But I'll tell you how we won Heineken, which is nothing. So we do all of that. We spend all that money. We do all of that stuff. And some of it works. But I'll tell you how we got Heineken. So we had our Harley Davidson client in for an event. We were talking about his event for next year. It was December, a couple of years ago. And you know, we had a session with him, and he said, oh, you know, I'm going to stay on tonight, and then tomorrow I'm going to this conference. Well, oh, okay, all right, well, you know, if you finish up, you know, we'll have a beer later or whatever. Anyway, we never had the beer, but he basically texted me that afternoon. He's like, oh, I just sat next to this woman. She's from Heineken. She's looking for a new event company, and do you mind if I give her your name and number? I'm like, of course, yeah, you can give her my name and number. So we did that, and sure enough, we went through an RFP process, and you know, we won. So it can come from sort of anywhere. You never quite know. But yeah, we have this big process, but we tend to actually get a lot of our stuff through word of mouth.
Well, thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
If anyone has some questions, Mark will be around for a little bit longer, I hope. And the sign-up sheets are out in the hallway. We have about 6 of them with pens out there. Thank you again, everyone. And our next one is next semester. Thank you again.